Go love your own enemies. Don't be loving mine. My enemies are the theocratic fascists. I don't love them. I want to destroy them.
You're a child made in the image of God. Oh no, you're not. You're a faggot. And you can't join your church and you can't go to heaven. This is disgraceful. It's inhuman.
I can't keep from mourning for this topsy-turvy world, with all its strife and pain, mourning for the lost and the desperate children who can't remember their names. Michael W. Smith. I think that's who sang that. It's a song I get in my head sometimes. And I don't sing very well, though. It's a song I really liked when I was a Christian. They're singing about all those people who are unenlightened. He's singing about all those people. You can't keep from mourning for all those poor people who are unenlightened, who don't believe in Christianity. You know what's funny is I get moods where I'm really sad, and I'm in one of those moods right now. I don't know why. I get tired of being, it's such an uphill battle. The cult is so strong and so, you know, yeah, you can see little bits and pieces of the armor start to fall away, but it's a vile monster, and it bites, and it wears you down. It wears you down when you see people on YouTube or Facebook, and they're like, just horrible, and you know, you respond to the horribleness, and you know, I know I get really mean when I'm attacked by somebody, one of those people. I get mean, I get angry, I get wrathful, and I lash out and say things deliberately to hurt. I call their precious belief system a cult, which it is. But they don't like to hear that. Christians, Kingdom of the Cults is a Christian book, and Kingdom of the Cults is pointing out all the world cults, all the modern cults, without pointing at itself, without looking in the mirror at its own self and going, hey, you know what, we meet the definition ourselves. Christianity standing on its little pedestal looking down at everybody else and going, we're superior. The rest of you are just cults. Incorrect religions. False belief systems. Yeah, Christianity judging everybody. And it makes for people that are just horrible. And people who try to be good, it wears them down to the point where they're horrible right back. They're horrible right back. They say things just like they do. They say things that they deliberately to hurt. Deliberately to hurt. And I am guilty of it. Sometimes I catch myself doing it and I realize I have to remind myself, these are victims. These are victims. These people that we see that we call trolls, that we ridicule and mock, like Side 10, Brueggen, whatever. And, you know, they're victims. They're poisoned. They're warped. They are delusional. They see the world like my mother sees the world. difference between my mother and them is my mom didn't get a choice. My mom didn't get a choice, but the similarities between my mother and them is you could say, you can stand an inch from their face and scream it at them. How narrow and small they make the world by trying to see it through this little tiny thing that they've made. They've narrowed the world down to such a small little thing. You try to point it out to them. You try to say, you know, this flies in the face of reality. You're seeing the world, you're living your life, and you're missing out on reality, and you can say it and say it and say it. They never hear. They never hear it. And you realize after a while that no matter how you say it, no matter, you know, who says it, you could have, you know, I don't know how to argue evolution very well because I'm not a scientist. I can say, well, this is how I understand it to be, but I'm just a normal person trying to give my idea of what it is. I'm not a scientist. But if you had a scientist who knew his shit, go to YouTube, go to Facebook, and try to explain to these people, you know, better than any atheist could ever explain it. The science, the evidence supporting the science, the observations in the lab, the observations in the natural world, whatever. You had a scientist who has the power to say it exactly right and present all the evidence that anybody could ever ask for. They would still laugh and turn their nose up and mock. Like they can stand on a pedestal and look down at men and women who strive every day to find a closer path, a closer way, a closer explanation to what is true. They strive every day. They're constantly trying to disprove what they have. Scientists try to disprove evolution all the time. Scientists try to disprove what they consider victorious triumphs. They're still trying to disprove them because they want the best imaginable answer, and they're never satisfied. And yet, these people, Christians and religious people, stand on their little pedestals and they look down at these people who work their asses off trying to find a better answer. You know, finding the evidence, doing the research, doing the testing. They look down on those people doing all that work and they mock them. But do they do the work? Are they out there scouring the world for evidence to show their claims are true? Do they constantly look for something closer to the true answer? Or are they just satisfied with the answer that it's in this book? We're satisfied because the book says. And yet they can mock people who really do try to find the truth, who really do work their asses off and try to find the truth. It gets old. You realize one day, no matter how eloquent you speak, no matter how many big words you can pronounce, no matter how much feeling and passion you feel, no matter what you say, they're deaf and they don't hear. They don't want to hear and they don't care. And when I realize that these people are drowning. They're drowning in delusion. They're drowning in this mind. It shrinks the perception of everything. It shrinks the world down. Some guy today was picking on gay people, and he said, he was trying to explain why gay people are bad, and he says they like to have sex. I'm like, yeah, and that's bad. Why? You know, yet I'm sure in his world it makes perfect sense to say that, but the way I look at it is, yeah, and I think most people do, straight or gay, man or woman, most people like sex to some degree. You know, it's actually been proven to be a health benefit, an emotional benefit. Just touching, you know. I personally think that just a hug, just holding somebody's hand, just touching, patting them on the back, it's just huge. And yet this cult perpetuates this idea that it's dirty. It's just dirty if you're not married, and it's dirty if you don't make babies from it. I look at people and I look at myself and feel bad when I forget, when I lose my perception, and I realize that I've forgotten that these are people just like myself. They're walking along thinking that this is the way to be, and they're fighting tooth and nail to keep that. Everything is a threat. Every other belief system, everything that's contrary to what they want to hear is a threat. So they keep up the walls, and they get angry if anything threatens those walls. They get angry, they get defensive, they get mean. I'll tell you what, when somebody's being a jackass to you, it's really easy to be a jackass right back. It's really easy to come up with some word or some whatever, troll, whatever, and you forget that this is somebody who's just like you. They've been fed bullshit. They truly believe it. Somehow they think that they're doing you a favor by threatening you with hell. They're doing you a favor when they say that they're going to pray for you. They actually think that that's a nice thing. Maybe you'll come around. Maybe you'll start believing what they do, and you'll be saved from the wrath of their God. They never really think about that. They never really think about the fact that they're trying to keep other people from being tortured by a monster. Yet they can call this thing loving while they're trying to help friends and family escape the monster. Oh, please believe this. Believe what I do so you don't have to be tortured forever one day. They don't want you to. Well, there's some really sadistic ones that really do, but a lot of Christians really and truly don't want to see anybody suffer forever. So they're helping you. They're doing all they can to escape, to help you escape the monster. You know, it's like the slaves in Indian America, when they would escape, there were people helping those slaves escape the monster, putting them in the underground, putting them in caves and hiding places so that they could escape the monster. That's what these Christians are. That's what some of these Christians are. They're helping people escape the monster. At least that's how they see it, because they're doing all they can to save you so you won't be tortured forever. And they think that they're doing you a favor. But at the same time, they're calling the monster loving. It's like, how can a delusion make a person like that? And yet it does. I was the same way. And I have to remind myself, these people are victims. What would they be like if they weren't afflicted by this? What would they be like if they could see the world through clear eyes and see how big it is and see how insignificant they are, and even their own death is such a big, terrible thing that they're so afraid of. It looms on in their horizon, and they're just so desperate to escape it. Is no big deal. It's nothing. It's trivial. It's a blip on the radar screen. It's nothing. Death loses its power. When you shake off the poison, death loses its power, and the fear goes away. And it's absolutely unspeakably wonderful. And these Christians walk around and they tell me that I'm blind. They tell me that I need to go back to that. Oh, thanks. It's like an alcoholic sitting at a bar next to somebody who's just gone a year without drinking, trying to give them a drink. You look at the guy who's gotten away from it for a year, looks at that glass like it's pure poison. And what friend would ever give another friend poison? No thanks. No, not for me. Been there, done that. It almost destroyed my life. No thanks. So yeah, stupid song at the beginning. It's been on my mind, and I feel that way. I used to sing that song and think about atheists. Now I think about Christians. Mourning for the lost and the desperate children who can't remember their names because they don't. What are they? They're people living a lie. They're people living behind a mask. What were their names before? Who were they before? Do they even remember who they were before? Can they remember that they were good before? They were. And when you take off the chains, when you shake yourself free, you remember. It all comes back. And you remember the thing that made you good was you. And you knew all along, until you took on the delusion, you were good. It was these people that came along, they tried to convince you that you were broken, that you had something wrong with you, that you weren't good enough, that you were unworthy to even stand in the presence of his lordship. You were tainted, you were whatever, impure. It made you hold your head in shame. It made you feel like you had to have this thing to be the good person you hoped that you were. Oh no, you're not really good. Here, you need this. No, you don't. And when you shake off the chains, you realize it real fast. It was all just bullshit. So anyway, I might just cut off the first part of this. If you're watching this video and you don't know what I'm talking about, when I filmed this, I had a song at the start. A song that I sang and loved when I was a Christian by Michael W. Smith. And I used to sing it thinking about atheists. Now I think about Christians when I sing it, or when it crosses my mind. I can't keep from mourning for this topsy-turvy world, with all its strife and pain. Mourning for the lost and the desperate children who cannot remember their name. That's what religion does. That's what religion does. Takes away your identity, puts a fake person in its place. You spend your whole life trying to be something you're not, or something you were to begin with and you never didn't have it. And they want to take all the credit for all the wonderful things that you are and were born being. So anyway, weird, depressing, sort of intense, I guess, video. I had somebody write me going, I haven't seen much of you on YouTube. It's like, wow, I thought I'd give people a break for a day, but here I am. Anyway, if you've been watching, thanks. Bye.
I am absolutely convinced that the main source of hatred in the world is religion. And I think it should be religion treated with ridicule and hatred and contempt.
Share the same way.